So good afternoon, good morning, depending where you are in the world. Collective, I hope you guys are having the best day ever. So I'm joined today with a really cool guest, and it's not just because of her hair, but her name is Clodagh. As she said to me, it's said like Yoda. If you haven't worked it out, she's from Ireland. And it's a super interesting topic as well. Clodagh, thanks for coming through, man. Nice to meet you. Tell us a little bit about yourself first. You just give us a quick 1 minute rundown. Who are you? What do you do? Socials, where people can find you, etc.
Super. Thank you so much for having me on the live stream. This is great. It's been an age since I've done a live stream or an interview like this, and I love connecting with agency owners. I'm a reformed agency owner. I built one in 2008.
Reformed as in you kicked the habit and you got out.
Kind of, but you know what it's like, the mafia, they drag you back in. So I had an agency, one in Sydney, closed it down, came back to Ireland after living 12 years in Australia and started another one. But at the same time, I took a job with HubSpot. And through that, I was working with hundreds of agencies who are just incredible people, but they were coming up against the same challenges. Great at sales and marketing and creating marketing campaigns, not so good at running a business or people management or the skills that are involved. So created a success formula based on the 6 pillars of success for an agency. It sits on top of the EOS model, the entrepreneurial operating system. I use some of their tools, and I have been helping for the last 5 years coach and consulting to digital agency owners to help unblock them. They either want to sell, they want to scale, they want to downsize, they want to merge, and whatever the challenges are, we analyze them, put a plan in place, and we get them to where they want to be next. I have a podcast called Agency Life, where I interview agency owners on the highs and lows of running a digital marketing agency, and help others not make some mistakes.
Yeah.
And the company, it's growwithgroup.com is where you can find me. Agency Life is the podcast, or Clodagh Higgins on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Good intro. And that, I think you've hit on so many touch points there of like what we try to do in the community as well, is like help agencies not make the same mistakes that other agencies made. That's a big part of what I try to do as well, because I speak to so many agencies, and I've started a new series called Bitch Agency, Boss Agency, with literally sharing those.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like sharing those war stories so you don't have to make the same mistakes yourself. Moving on. So this is quite an exciting topic, guys. So we're obviously talking about the big resignation. So Clodagh mentioned that she wrote a blog, and in it she discusses the big resignation from an agency perspective, which I think is quite interesting. As I was saying, it's quite a new topic for us, because I think a lot of agencies over the last couple of years have been through that. And Clodagh, you mentioned just before we were chatting, I haven't had a chance to read the blog myself. We'll post it down in the comments down below. But take us through it, man. I mean, this is obviously something that you saw as an angle in your world that said, hey, a lot of people are resigning due to COVID, or making new life decisions and going on new paths and saying, hey, life's short. It could end at any stage. Let me go and start that ice cream shop, or let me go and start coaching that kid's football school, or whatever it is. So you've seen that in the agency world, or you've got some thoughts about that?
Yeah, very much so, especially as we're coming into this new year. It's actually most of the inquiries I'm getting now is, you know, Clodagh, I've been doing this for 8 years, or it's clients that I've worked with in the past who've come back to me and they're changing their business, or they're thinking about, you know what, I still want to work, but I don't want to do this agency thing anymore for whatever reason. Just tired of it, don't want to do it anymore, have seen new opportunities for them. And, you know, they're probably at that anywhere between 8 years old of an agency or up to 25 years, and they're hitting that lifestyle. They want to do some sailing or do more golfing or whatever it looks like. So yeah, there's actually a number of topics that we cover then, you know, we've got to talk about, and that's the blog post I wrote, which you put it in here. So I'll walk you through some of those points. So the first one is, what does exit look like? You know, there isn't some magic agency out there. There's no fairy godmother, you know, so you have to think about, what role are you going to play in this exit? Very, very rarely can you just sell and sail off the next day. The buyer is going to want, you know, you to stay on for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
So there's no magic formula for that. And you have to sit down and think about, okay, well, if I did get sold or bought out by a bigger company or another agency, or I merged with someone, what would I do? And I've yet to meet an agency owner that's like, oh, I'm going to just lie by the pool and I'm going to do nothing. They might take a break, but they're going to do something else. An entrepreneur is going to be working. My dad's a classic example of that. He's in his 70s. He's still, I can never get a hold of him. The man has been an entrepreneur all of his life. He'll never not work. You know, he loves it. He loves what he does. So the first part you've got to think about there's actually a number of things and ways you can think about exiting. You might take a part-time role. You could take a transition role or a training role, but they're going to want to, you have to exit with it in a certain way. You could be involved for another 5 years. Are you comfortable with that? So the exit is a really important part to start with the end in mind, isn't it? You know, and what are you going to do after? Retirement, who even wants to do that? Like, you know, it's sitting around crocheting, playing bridge, you know, come on. It doesn't matter what age you are. People in the agency world have a lot of energy.
Yeah, certain road to death.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the next thing to consider then is, before you even start to talk to someone, is to get all your processes and procedures in place. I am like a broken record talking about this book called Traction by Gino Wickman. And there's an entrepreneurial operating system, which basically is the backbone for organizing any business. How to have your meetings, what to measure, what KPIs everyone's going to have them. What role are you going to do? 9 times out of 10, agency owners are wearing multiple hats. And sometimes some of those hats they're not very good at, let's be honest. Yeah. And once you put some processes in place that the agency is a well-oiled machine, you are then, that is very high value. So you have to prove to someone, this machine runs and here's how I run it. When things go bad, this is how I fix it. When things are running well, this is how I improve things. So getting all your processes and procedures are really in place. And it starts, for me and for every other agency or cafe or big multinational, the methodology works with thousands of companies. So I'd highly recommend looking at that.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, and processes and policies are so important, because at the end of the day, I mean, just from a corporate perspective, if you are selling, they're buying an asset in a way, and you've got to hand over something that they can just turnkey run, because it's a going concern.
Yeah, and even though you'll be part of it, you can't have anything in your head. You know, it's got to be all documented. How do you teach someone? Have you done a recording video of that? How will you teach your replacement for, even if you are phasing yourself out over 5 years? It's so important. Yeah. And the next thing to do is build like a really awesome pitch deck for your agency. And in that, you want to have about, an introduction about you. Why are you selling? It's probably the number one thing, don't leave it down at the end, but tell people why you are selling. What are the motivations, personal and professional? Talk about the values of the agency, because that will then represent the rest of the company. You talk about what you've done, go over your brief financials. When you're pitching to a prospective buyer as well, you're usually going to be signing an NDA before you meet. So, you can get the meeting, but get an NDA, because then you're just really comfortable talking about the people in your business, your clients. You don't want to drag out this process. You want to make that first meeting really impactful. And so dressing yourself with an NDA is giving you some protection there, and just some relaxing, to be able to share things and stop being reserved. Then you can be your true authentic self in that meeting. Talk about your awards and your accomplishments, where you're located, where the opportunity that you see going forward. If you've got a cash investment, if it's a merger, if you're bought out, where do you see the business going if this got bought in the way you would like it, and where you need help. And once you do that, after you're covered with an NDA, you're just going to have a really great first meeting, and it'll speed up the process. Instead of this, cloak and dagger, reserved kind of meeting going, oh, I can't tell you that until an NDA. Just get one, get it done. Yeah. And then you're either in or out after that first meeting. It really does speed up the process.
And it's a real important one for any style of business actually, or any stage of an agency, whatever you're doing in an agency. We as humans tend to be I learned that a lot in the US with some of the agencies. They're so scared to click on our, agree to our reseller agreement. And we sign up an agency to support them with resources. They're like, oh, no, I don't know what I'm signing here. I'm like, mate, go for it. Read it out. But people are so scared to take things legal, to say, hey, would you mind signing an NDA? Would you mind signing an SLA, whatever it is? There's absolutely no shame in it. In fact, it's actually, because these things are set up to protect both parties. It's not a one-way street. They're there to protect everybody. So it's good brushing your teeth every day. You've got to do the good habits. And exercising every day. You've got to do the good things to protect yourself, and don't feel shame about that.
Yeah. And then you can be free. You can show your personality. You can talk about you don't want to start a conversation about, oh, we had this client and, oh, I can't talk about that. Like, it's nothing more stilted, It's like going on a date, but you're not really going on a date. You're kind of going, oh, I'll tell you about that on the second date. It's like, well, there won't be one because you're being quite stuffy, and you're not being yourself. So use it as a tool so that you can go, whoa, here's what we've got, and we really want to do it. And that meeting could be 45 minutes, an hour. It might work. It might be like you're showing yourself, or it might not, but that's it. Instead of having 6 or 7 cloak and dagger meetings and kind of hiding behind things, having one big wallop. It doesn't work out. The NDA is in place, no harm lost. And you never know what comes out of it then. The next point I have, which, this is a tough one for my agencies that I'm working with, is you're not to tell the team. Now, we all talk about transparency in business. We talk about, sharing the numbers with the team, because they need to know, are they hitting their numbers, where you're at. Transparency and this are two totally different things. The minute you start talking about, oh, we're going to sell the business, you could potentially start losing your team, because they're going to be worried about their jobs. They're worried about what the future of the agency, will it be broken apart? And those are things that are not to be worried about. You have to decide what's best for the agency. It might be better that they're absorbed by a big company and they all have marketing jobs. And then everyone's choice is, I want to be part of this bigger thing or not. You're selling the mechanisms. You can't guarantee the people. And what you don't want is discontent or people worried about their jobs. Employees have a very different mindset from entrepreneurs. They want certainty. They want guarantees. They want to know their promotion paths. They want to know about their future. They're worried about their future. Those things, entrepreneurs, you know what we're like. We fly by the seat of our pants some of the time. We're comfortable with not knowing, what we're doing. I could have a totally different career next year. I have no idea what that's going to look like. I can't believe I'm doing something for 5 years at this point. But we're comfortable with that. We're comfortable with the uncertainty in the world, because you know what? We'll figure it out and we'll do it. Employees, not so much. So it's not about hiding it. It's about thinking what's best for the team. And right now, let's be brutally honest, you couldn't be in a better industry for job selections and choices. I'm getting hit up every week. I'm sure you are too, Stephen, about, hey, any chance you'll come and work for me? We're in a high demand industry. I've been in this since 2008, talking about content marketing, Facebook. Since 2008, everyone thought I was off with the Jetsons in the future. They were like, I don't need to know that stuff. Now I'm getting people ringing me up going, I didn't realize that social media was going to be such an important part of my business. Don't worry about the people right now. Do the best that you can for them. It's their choice if they move forward. They're not going to. It's not like you're signing them up into a slavery. They have choices, but they also they can work for so many different companies right now, and they're in high demand. If you've got 6 months of digital marketing experience, you are in high demand right now. So they'll be fine. Don't be worrying about them.
Completely. And the truth of the matter is, I think, thank God, I've been through the from a people perspective, I've been through the ringer. I've had the shit people and the people that the CDE players, and I've managed to learn those lessons, and now I've got A players. And if they're that great, if they're that loyal to you, they will appreciate what you're doing for them. and they'll come along for the journey. They'll recognize what you're doing and potentially move with you to the next place if that's what they want to do. If you've built that loyalty, if they're that worried about working with someone else, or that actually are they that worried about working for someone else, or they're that committed to working for you, and that's a big part of it. Those you should be having teams. That's what you want to build around you, is teams that want to work with you. Let them come with you, let them stay, but that's what you want to aim for.
Yeah, and you're going to be selling to someone that you're aligned with anyway. So you're thinking about the agency in that way of what's best for the team, what's best for the business, so you're thinking about it in that way, and just let that happen. And if presented when the deal comes through and they go, I'm not so sure, you can help them find something else if they don't want to join that new vision. But that could happen today, tomorrow. Don't worry about it, but definitely don't tell them. And it's a struggle, because agencies are like, oh, I feel bad, but don't. You're actually doing them a much better thing, because you need your agency to keep performing at a high level, which brings me on to the next thing. This can be a long sales process. You're not going to suddenly wake up one morning and go, I'm going to sell the business, and next month it's done. It can take anywhere between 6 months to a year, if not longer. And that's something that you're not prepared for, because as you want to leave, or you've decided to sell, or you decided to merge, technically in your head, you've probably moved on to the next thing. So you have to just buckle up and just go, okay, I'm still working my agency. I'm doing all the things that I need to do. It's the basics are covered. And this is happening in the background, like a hobby, not to be emotional about it, and know that it's going on, and do your best to not let it interfere with you just running the agency. Because too many times what I've seen is the minute you start talking about selling, the agency owner forgets to do the basics, and then a few months down the track and they go, oh no, I haven't been having that level 10 meeting, and you're like, well, now we don't know how to show people how the machine works. So which then brings me on to my kind of final point, is really, I strongly encourage, don't do it on your own. Get an M&A expert, get a consultant, and get a coach, get someone to help you through the process. Because if you're doing it on your own and it's all bottling up inside you, you will turn around to someone in the agency and go, I've just got to tell you this. But if you've got someone to talk to about it, whoever that is, and there's a wide variety of people that you can engage with. You could even just ask a friend, if it wasn't just going, can you meet me once a month to talk about me selling my business? And I just need to vent and talk it out with a mentor, anybody. But definitely don't do it on your own, because it's just too much.
And I think that last point actually is true for just running a digital agency day to day, whether you're selling it or not, is have somebody to talk to who's not in that space. You can't, we need, as business owners, because agencies are businesses, guys. We're not an agency owner, you're a business owner. And there's a lot that comes with that. There's a lot of stress, there's a lot of responsibility, and there's no shame, whether it's a psychologist or a business coach. Basically the same thing at the end of the day. It's just somebody to talk to.
Therapist, counselor. Yeah, I know.
There you go.
I'm aware.
Bartender, for the Irish bar.
Oh yeah. Networker. There's so many things.
Now that we've done the racial profiling out of the way. Clodagh, thank you so much, man. That's been unbelievable good value. As I said, we try to keep these short 10 to 15 minutes, which I think we nailed more or less here. So thank you so much for joining us. And before, without saying goodbye too quickly, because Clodagh has given me a little bit of the insight, guys. If you do manage to catch the live, obviously for those who managed to catch the live, thanks for joining in. If you didn't and you catch us on the replay, it's obviously in the community on YouTube. Stay tuned to the community. If you are watching this on YouTube, you should be in our community. The link's in the description down below. Clodagh has given me a little insight into a cool experience she's having this week coming. I think this week coming. So I've asked her if she wouldn't mind to maybe join us again once she's done that. No clues as to what she's doing. It'll be a surprise once she's done it. And hopefully she can share a good experience with us as well, which I think is relevant, very relevant to the digital space at the moment as well. So Clodagh, thank you so much for coming through.
Delighted, absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I look forward to the next one.
Awesome, have a good one.